trying to have a baby is fun until it's not anymore. And it becomes a chore and something you have to do on a schedule. And it took a toll on us.
For anyone who's experienced infertility, that might be a familiar story. Today's guest, Hana Peters, and her husband Ryan had been trying without achieving pregnancy. For the Peters, the path to parenthood was one that required IVF and a whole lot of support. And today, Hana's going to share her story. I'm Dan Bulger with Progyny, and this is Infertility. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of This is Infertility, where we share people's personal experiences with fertility and family building. But before we dive into Hana's story, I do just want to take a second to remind you that we have some resources available for anyone who might want to bring fertility and family building benefits to their employer. These resources can be found at progyny.com/talktohr. Most employers that offer family building benefits do so because an employee asked for it. So take advantage of our resources and help bring this life-changing benefit to your employer. Now, as I said at the top of this episode, today we're going to get to know Hana and her experience with infertility. For Hana and Ryan, having kids was something that they had been planning for some time.
It was something we talked about before we even got engaged, because I'm 3.5, almost 4 years older than my husband. And so when we started talking about like engagement was coming, I was like, well, let's go, because I'm getting older and, we want to have children. Like we had talked about wanting to have children. And I had actually always had a fear that I would struggle to have kids. And so the literal ticking time bomb of like your maternal clock was going on inside me, because I knew that we wanted to at least be married and have no children for a year and a half. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, then that's going to make me this age and that's going to make me this age. So we definitely talked about it. And yeah, it was very much part of our plan.
Shortly after the wedding, Hana, who was 34 at the time, went off contraception.
We started not trying maybe about 8 months after the wedding, and then started, like, I had been clocking my ovulation, like, pretty much from the get-go, because of that fear that I had, and I wanted to make sure that I was ovulating regularly, and I was like, couldn't be more regular, and so I was keeping track of it. And then, a few months after of not trying, we started to like actually really try and do it by the clock, if you will. And I don't know, it was about almost a year into that I was like, this isn't happening, and this is like not really great for our marriage either. It's trying to have a baby is fun until it's not anymore. And it becomes a chore and something you have to do on a schedule. And it took a toll on us. The things we did to get through it is I would cry every single month when I would either get a negative test or, I was very clearly not pregnant, and would say, okay, it's okay. Like we'll try again next month. And my husband is very even keeled and I am very not. We're a really nice balance of each other in that way. So he was really, really huge and able to keep me calm throughout it. It was more just like we can do this together. We can figure this out. Like it's been a long time and that's okay. Maybe it's going to be next month. And it was a lot of just, all right, let's go get a next go around, but I feel very lucky that I have someone that was super supportive. And yeah.
We share a lot of stories where people need advanced treatment like IVF. And when that's the case, there's a tendency to kind of gloss over that time that came before the IVF. But it's important to recognize that the months and sometimes years of trying at home on your own without success can be intensely difficult to experience. And making matters worse is that there often aren't a lot of outlets for people during that time.
Because of my fear of not being able to get pregnant, I didn't really want to tell everybody that we were trying because I didn't want everyone to constantly ask me, like, if they noticed I wasn't drinking or something, like, oh, now is the time. And but yeah, so we only told a few friends, and even that was hard because at first they were super supportive, but then it was like, I'm sure you've heard this doing this many times, as you get the advice of just relax or go on vacation or take Mucinex or eat more pineapples or try not to stress about it. Like, which word to the wise, if anyone hears this, don't say that to people, whether you know they're struggling to get pregnant or not. I've learned a lot in this process about what you shouldn't say to women or couples. Because it's quite triggering. And then you start getting in your head and you're like, well, maybe I should just relax, and maybe I should put the calendar away, and maybe I should take Mucinex or whatever it is, and then when you try those things that your friends who easily get pregnant tell you to do, and then it doesn't work, it's just another little chipping away at the disappointment when you get the negative pregnancy test. So yeah, he and I we would commiserate over like that was really annoying that was said to us, or that was really hard to hear that. And I didn't expect him to like empathize so well with that, but he did. And there was a little, like, I don't want to say joy, but it was kind of nice to be like angry at comments together too, like that actually helped us get through it.
Hana shared that she was married previously and that at that time they had tried as well without results. So this was really starting to look like there might be a problem here.
Thank goodness I didn't get pregnant, but I didn't get pregnant. And so when I started trying with my husband, I was thinking, well, maybe it was just meant to be that I didn't get pregnant then. And then obviously it was like the same situation for us. And so I was like, dang, I've known all along.
It was around this time when a friend of Hana's told her that she was seeing a fertility doctor to freeze her eggs, and she recommended that Hana book an appointment with them just to do some tests.
She knew that I wanted to have children and that my husband and I wanted to have children. And she was like, well, maybe you should get your egg count tested, right? And I was like, yeah, I should. So I booked an appointment about a month after she did, and went and got tested at ACRM, and my egg count was above average for my age. And I was like, okay, that's a good start, right? That's a good start. And so went through some of the other parts of the process, which is, getting the saline infusion ultrasound to see if your tubes are blocked, for lack of a better term, to, can the sperm not actually get to the egg? Long story short, everything came back normal. So next step was getting my husband tested. And my husband came back completely normal, above average for his age. And we ended up getting diagnosed with unexplained infertility.
Unexplained infertility doesn't mean that nothing is wrong. It just means that the normal tests don't indicate that anything is wrong. In a way, it's a great diagnosis because it indicates that most of the core functions of human reproduction are in place. But of course, for those who get an unexplained infertility diagnosis, it can be a bit frustrating.
To me, that was super frustrating. Like, why? Like, we have all the science, like, you're doctors. This is exactly what you specialize in. Why can't you figure out what is stopping us from getting pregnant? Like, on paper, our bodies, all of our tests are saying that we should be able to. So what is going on? I learned from my doctor that is actually a diagnosis that they really like. They like that because it's not, hey, you're not getting pregnant because of this thing specifically in you that we won't be able to fix, for example. Or, all right, because it's this one thing, we've got to go through this really crazy process to fix that one thing. My doctor, Dr. Patel, was like, this is great. Like, we're going to be able to solve for this. This means we have so many options to, like, help you get pregnant, And she was like, hey, you want to freeze your eggs anyway, right? Because I want more than one child. I'm getting older. My egg count's never gonna be as good as it is now. And I was like, yes, I do. And then she's like, well, why don't we just go straight to IVF? And rewinding a little bit there, I think generally people would, do IUI first and maybe do a couple rounds of IUI first because it's cheaper than IVF, a lot cheaper than IVF. But it was in that moment when she said, why don't we just do IVF, that I learned that I had Progyny.
Yes, Hana has access to the Progyny benefit. Progyny is a fertility and family building benefit that employers, in this case Salesforce, can offer to their employees. And it really makes a huge difference.
I talked to my husband and I was like, everything about us trying to get pregnant, I have felt very out of control of the situation. This actually makes me feel like we have control. We have some level of control. Like we're going to know how many embryos we have. We actually can get them tested to make sure that they're healthy embryos so that when we put them in, we know that our success rate is going to be higher than if we hadn't done that. Like we are gaining control back in this process.
The Progyny benefit from Salesforce gave them control and flexibility, and they dove right into the next phase of their family building journey. They did IVF. Hana responded wonderfully. They ended up with several PGTA-tested healthy embryos, transferred one, and
I went in to get the blood test to see if our embryo transfer was successful, and I got a call from Dr. Patel. I was in Target, the smack middle of Target, and I answered the phone, and she goes, Hana, you're pregnant. And I'm telling you, those people probably thought someone told me that someone died because I was bawling, crying. I ran out of Target, like around the side of it, because I was very embarrassed at how I probably looked. But I mean, I'll never forget it ever. And yeah, like I said, he just turned one on May 2nd, and it's crazy.
Hana has a lot of gratitude to share, and she wanted to start by thanking her doctor, Dr. Patel, and the team at her clinic, ACRM in Atlanta.
I have nothing but wonderful things to say about them. Every time I went, it was fast, which at a doctor's office is not always the case, right? It was clean. They were kind. They were empathetic. Like, my doctor is fabulous. Like, even my communication with ACRM, I've got a specific care team that I can reach out to via email. I've got a scheduling team that I can reach out to via email, and I can reach out to my doctor if I ever want to. Like, I'm not blocked or gatekept from my doctor either, which I think is really important, especially when going through something as emotionally taxing and confusing as infertility and whatever the treatment course is that you end up taking. Like, you want to be able to talk to the expert of what's going on, and you want to be able to ask your question to someone that can give you like the answer that makes sense. And so the fact that I had so much access to them, even when I wasn't having actual appointments with ACRM, they blow me away. A lot of my friends have actually the exact same doctor as me there. And all of my friends that I know that are either freezing eggs or have gone through IVF or anything like that, they go to ACRM.
Hana is also very grateful to her employer, Salesforce, for offering such comprehensive coverage and support. She has even become a huge advocate, helping others at her workplace understand that they have this kind of support available to them and that they're not alone.
I've been very vocal about it, and with that have had the opportunity to have one-on-ones with women at my company that are going through the exact same thing. And like, I get to share with them how cool it is to have Progyny, what it means for them to have it, and even just give them a little bit of like, shed some color on what the IVF process looks like, the shots, oh, you're going to give yourself hundreds of shots. You're going to feel like a doctor when you're done. Like, even that. So I'm just very open about it because I think that people need to understand that they are not alone.
Yes. I think that that's maybe the best takeaway from any story about infertility. Everyone has a different experience. We all encounter these things at our own unique set of circumstances, and we all have our own race to run. But what is universal is that all of this, every part of it, gets better when we face it with support. Support from our doctors, support from the staff at the clinic, the amazing nurses and coordinators who make this all happen, support from friends and loved ones, and yes, support from our employers who embrace these benefits and understand that to those who need it, fertility coverage from a benefit like Progyny is possibly the most life-changing benefit that you can offer your people. And with that, I want to thank Hana for joining us today and for sharing her story. I also want to thank you for listening. If you want to connect with us, you can do so at Instagram at This Is Infertility Podcast. If you want to follow Progyny, you can do that at Progyny Inc. Of course, if you're listening on a podcast app, please leave a rating and review. And if you're watching on YouTube, you got to hit the like button. This Is Infertility is brought to you by Progyny. Please remember this podcast is not intended to substitute for the personalized expert advice of your physician. I'm Dan Bulger, and this is Infertility.